Number 10. A tough performance. One of the worst Cirque du Soleil performances in history had to be cut short when an acrobat made a terrible mistake. They were performing The Beatles' Love in Las Vegas when one of the aerial artists fell and hit the floor. Luckily, the show was stopped right away, and the unidentified performer was taken immediately to the medical team, where they were reported in stable condition. But this was nothing compared to the previous Cirque du Soleil performance that actually did end up with someone dying. Back in 2013, a performer named Sarah Guillot-Gaillard was in the Cirque du Soleil show K.A. being performed in Las Vegas. She fell 50 feet while being hoisted up the side of the stage and fell down to the floor. At first, people in the audience thought it was part of the show. They thought she had fallen down on purpose until screaming and groaning filled the auditorium. Everyone can hear Sarah crying from the stage that she was in terrible pain. Tragically, Sarah didn't make it out of that one alive. The performer died from her injuries, proving once and for all how deadly being an acrobat in a traveling show can be. Despite thousands of hours of training and rehearsal, the slightest misstep can still send a professional acrobat home in a body bag. Number 9. A bad mix. The driver of a cement mixer was discovered clinging to the back of his truck hours after he died in a freak accident. He may have been on the back of his truck, but he was missing one very important feature: his head. The people who found the victim of this freak accident were ordinary residents who happened to be driving by the cement truck and realized something didn't quite look right. The man was hanging onto the side of the ladder with the upper part of his body jammed into the top of the cement drum, but he wasn't moving. Upon closer inspection, the residents realized the guy was dead. He had died in such a strange position that it looked like he was still at work. The residents quickly backed off and called the police. When the police showed up, they learned that the man had been decapitated, probably while sticking his head in the cement drum to inspect it. He lost his footing, his neck was caught in the rotating drum, and it ripped his head clean off his body. Suffice to say, working a cement truck can be a pretty hazardous job. To make things worse for the driver, he was identified as 41-year-old Juan, living and working in western Taiwan. The authorities never managed to find his head. They believed it was crushed inside the spinning mechanism. Number 8. A fierce catch. Being a fisherman is one of the most dangerous things in the world. Fisherman Jackson Housen knows this from first-hand experience. He was fishing near Coral Bay in Western Australia when he had a rather unfortunate run-in with an angry shark. He had just finished spearing a fish when a lurking shark decided to take a bite out of him. The shark had been trying to eat the same fish, but Jackson beat him to it. So, the shark took out its frustration on the fisherman, sinking its teeth right into his ankle. Jackson was in his 20s when this happened, and luckily, he was in pretty good physical condition. He was able to punch the shark in the face to disorient it. Then he hurried away for dear life. He swam over 300 feet back to his boat, with the shark trailing after him. Jackson made it onto the boat without getting attacked again. He never even got a good look at the predator that tried to kill him. He believes it was probably a bull shark, one of the most dangerous on the planet. He managed to make it to the Perth Royal Hospital, where doctors fixed him up without any problems. He had some serious gashes on his leg, but walked away from the hospital without suffering any long-term damage. And the last we heard, he's still a fisherman. Would you go back to fishing if you were attacked by a shark? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 7. A dangerous fare. Being a taxi driver has never been a glamorous job, and now more than ever, it's one of the most dangerous in the world. Humberto Sierra Camacho was 46 years old and a taxi driver in Maryland. He knew the dangers of the job, but hey, it pays the bills. And up until recently, nothing has ever happened to him that a good night's sleep couldn't fix. But then, 14-year-old Romeo Nolasco Cuyar flagged down his taxi and got in. He was posing as a passenger, but the drive would only last for about 10 minutes. The kid almost immediately pulled out a knife to rob Humberto of the measly $40 that he had on him. As measly as that $40 may have been, the grown adult was not about to hand it over to some punk with a knife. There was a struggle, and Humberto lost. He ended up being stabbed several times by the 14-year-old. His stab wounds were so serious that he bled out and died right there in his taxi. And to make matters even more tragic, he had only been a taxi driver for Taxi Latino in Maryland for 3 months. All the money that he made was sent back to his wife and kids still living in Mexico. Now, Humberto is dead. His wife and kids are in a horrible position, and the 14-year-old is looking at a life in jail. Number 6. A missed package. Working in an Amazon warehouse is one of the most dangerous things you can do. At least, it was for Billy Foister, When the 48-year-old man signed up to work in the Amazon warehouse, little did he know he was signing his own death warrant. He dropped onto the floor from a heart attack and was left there struggling to breathe for over 20 minutes. And to make things even more horrendous, the boss on site ordered everyone to go back to work immediately after Billy's body was dragged off the warehouse floor. This wasn't a spontaneous heart attack either. According to Billy's brother, he had gone to the clinic at the warehouse complaining about headaches and chest pains, but all the care workers said was that he was dehydrated and should drink more water and get back to work. After the incident, Amazon denied through their teeth that Billy died at the warehouse. They instead said that their trained team members responded quickly, that emergency responders arrived within minutes, and that he died at the local hospital. But of course, Amazon never did respond to any additional comments on the situation. Number 5. A bad day at the office. In Tennessee, being a postal worker is not only hazardous, it can prove deadly. 3 people were killed after a postal worker sorting mail in Memphis went absolutely crazy at a facility and shot 2 of their co-workers. Family members who arrived on scene identified one of the victims as James Wilson, the manager of the facility. However, the Postal Service and the FBI are keeping pretty quiet about the rest of the details. What we've been able to piece together so far is that the postal worker snapped, went after his boss, and then took down whoever else was in his way. We all know postal workers have a history of going crazy and murdering their co-workers. This in itself makes it a difficult job to apply for. But in October of 2010, Tennessee was rocked by yet another attack on postal office workers, this time from a robbery. 2 workers were shot by a guy who walked in looking for cash. I mean, who in the world decides to rob a post office? It really makes you want to be a little nicer to your mailman. Number 4. A bit of a shock. Harvey Tyrell was just 7 years old when he went with his family to the King Harold pub in East London. They were hanging out in the beer gardens when the young kid put his hand on a poorly installed outdoor light. This was September 11, 2018. When the kid touched the lights, he received a massive electric shock that went through his body and stopped his heart. The little boy was killed by an overload of electricity. Now obviously, this was not the little boy's fault. Instead, the blame fell on the electrician who rigged up the wiring, as well as the owner of the pub. The owner is David Bierman, 73 years old. In court proceedings following the death of the boy, he was given 9 years in jail for gross negligence manslaughter. The judge actually told him that his pub was a disgrace. Then there's the electrician, David's brother-in-law, Colin Naylor. Colin is a year older than David, but he was only handed down a sentence of a single year in jail for his crummy electric job. Both men had known that the electrical wiring was dangerous, and both had done nothing about it. Colin had tried to fix the lights a little bit, but he clearly wasn't a very good electrician. And that brings us to the whole point. Being an electrician is not only a dangerous job, because you might find yourself electrocuted, but because you could cause someone else's death by electric volts. Number 3. A sheepish killer. Being a farmer is tough, especially if you are a 94-year-old man who can't take proper care of his sheep. An elderly man in France, near the small town of Cestas, recently met his maker, all thanks to a rampaging ram. The old guy had been wandering across a field full of sheep when one particularly angry ram saw it had an opportunity. The male sheep knocked the old man off his balance. Then when he was on the ground, he trampled him. The guy was later found lying in the dirt with his face swollen and bruised, with no pulse. The ram had made easy work of him, trampling and beating him until he stopped moving. What police found out afterwards was that the ram was not normally aggressive. Instead, it had turned aggressive because there were a lot of female sheep around, and he was showing off as the dominant male. The 94-year-old man had decided to take a shortcut through the field where the sheep lived. This probably caused the ram to become protective of his flock, at which point it charged the man and killed him. Number 2. A predator in the woods. Speaking of wild animal attacks, a logger in a remote Russian forest was recently mauled to death after going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Logging is an extremely hazardous profession, but normally because of the heavy-duty equipment and the fact that trees are falling every which way. People get crushed by trees. They die in equipment accidents. They don't normally get mauled to death by wild beasts. According to the local authorities, the Russian logger was named Mikhail Shabaldin, 41 years old. He left the camp in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and ran into a massive Siberian tiger. Imagine his surprise when the tiger pounced from the shadows and slashed him in the face with its huge paw. The wild beast ambushed the logger before he even got to the bathroom, then dragged him away into the forest. His coworkers discovered scattered pieces of clothing, bits of what appeared to be human flesh, blood stains in the dirt, and tiger footprints everywhere, but the body was never found. The The prevailing theory at this point is that the tiger dragged Mikhail back to its lair and then ate him. There's little chance of his remains ever being found, and because this happened so far away in the forest, there isn't much anyone can do about it. It's just one of the dangers of logging in the Russian wilderness. And number 1, a rookie cop. Cops have a tough job, there's no doubt about it. If you think being a police officer is easy, let's take a look at the case of Ashley Ginden. She was responding to a domestic shooting on a Saturday evening when she herself became a victim of gun violence. Amazingly, Ashley had been sworn in as a police officer the day before her death. She was a rookie cop, and it was her first day on the job. She went to investigate the shooting with 2 other officers, and all 3 of them got blasted. According to the Prince William County Police, Ashley graduated from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona with a bachelor's degree in aeronautics, but because she had a lot of family law enforcement, she decided to do some patrol work. Had she picked any other day to start, she may still be alive right now, but on this Saturday evening, Ronald Hamilton of Virginia got into an argument with his wife. The argument turned violent, and Ronald started shooting. During the fight, he shot his wife to death, and that's when the cops showed up. He tried to shoot them too. Ashley lost her life. The other 2 officers were wounded, and Hamilton was swiftly apprehended by other cops who arrived on the scene. He has since been charged with first-degree murder and will never see the light of day again. Do you know anyone who met their fate at work? Let us know about it in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel for all the best videos on the internet. See you next time.